Welcome to r/Best of Redditor updates, where we have one of those stories that gets worse and darker with every update. Our next Reddit post comes from r/advice. I'm a 28-year-old woman and my fiancé Alex is 28. He has a best friend, Danny, a girl who's 28 since they were 4. She's not like the usual Reddit BFF. She's a lovely, sweet person who has never crossed boundaries with Alex or their 2 other friends, Marcus and Daniel. The 4 of them are very close. Danny is gay and always was. She's very much a woman, but likes to dress in jeans and t-shirts and not in any feminine clothing. She's lean, tall, has short hair, and is just one of the boys in a lot of ways. This weekend was Alex's bachelor party. All 4 of them, plus 2 other of Alex's friends went along. It was a coastal town that's well known for hosting bachelor and bachelorette parties, but there's no strip club or anything. They stayed in a bed and breakfast and had scuba diving and kayaking planned. The first night went okay. Dinner, restaurant, nightclub, and then home. Last night was the issue. They did the nightclub and then headed back to the house. Marcus and Daniel, who are both single, brought back 2 girls from the nightclub and got busy in their bedrooms. The rest were drinking in the living room, but things got a bit loud, and the 2 friends started complaining that they didn't get to go to a strip club and never got to see some TNA. They were blaming their wives and calling their wives names. Danny told them to shush as it was ruining the mood, and they both thought that it would be funny if they saw Danny's body naked to make up for it. The thing is, Alex joined in and the guys stripped her. Danny was screaming loudly, and Marcus and Daniel came running and rescued Danny and put her in the bathroom with the girls and then had a fight with the 3 men. Then they packed up and took Danny and the 2 girls and left the other 3 at the house. Danny was hysterical, and Marcus wanted her to go to the police, but she wouldn't. She was afraid to go home, so they ended up dropping the girls off and taking Danny to her parents', which was an hour away. Marcus was at my door at 7 a.m. this morning, and he told me what happened, and that if he ever sees Alex again, he's afraid of how things could go. He told me that if he can convince Danny to press charges, he will. Then he left. Alex returned at about 3 this afternoon. He was acting normally until I told him Marcus visited. He was very nervous and tried to play down what happened as a joke that got out of hand. But I'm devastated. I heard him out, but he knew that I wasn't accepting what he was saying. I told him that Danny may be going to the police, and he got very panicked and pale. He said that she had him blocked and he wanted to go talk to her. I told him that Danny wasn't at her place because she was too afraid that he or his buddies would turn up there. I asked him to leave and he didn't want to go, but I insisted. He was crying, saying that it was a prank that got out of hand. I heard him out only as a courtesy to our 2-year relationship, but I am done. I don't know this man, and I don't know if I should reach out to Danny or just do nothing. Marcus and I have been in constant contact, and he agrees that I have no option but to end things. I don't know where to start with canceling everything, as the wedding was in 5 weeks, but it seems trivial compared to what Danny is going through right now. Marcus is convinced that Danny is going to the police after talking to her parents, so I think that Alex is in trouble. I can't support him on this. Maybe I'm wrong because he was drunk and probably had taken other things, but this was his friend from age 4 and he did this to her. I haven't blocked Alex, but I haven't replied or picked up any of his calls. Then the next day, OP posted an update. I did tell my parents and my brother, and they've been wonderful. My brother brought his friend with him when he came to stay, and today, both of them packed up every bit of my ex's stuff and took it to his parents' house. My ex was there, and he just asked if that meant that I was finished with him, and my brother said yes, and did he really expect any other reaction? His father intervened and told my ex not to say anything more. He told my brother to tell me to contact him on canceling the wedding, but I'm not contacting his father ever. My parents are handling canceling the wedding, and my father got in with my cousin who's a lawyer, and he said that he's going to help and advise me as needed. I have to disentangle myself from my ex on leases, bank accounts, savings, and other stuff, although my brother made me transfer all of my money from joint account savings and daily accounts to my own account. It's a mess. I tried to call Danny, but she isn't up for speaking to anyone, so I just texted her that I was there for her and that I had broken up with Alex. She hasn't replied, and I don't expect that she will. She's in a bad way, apparently. Daniel spent 3 hours with me today. There's a lot going on, but I'm afraid to say too much for fear of damaging any court cases. I just want to add that there are 2 videos of the incident. One by Jeb, one of the 2 friends who assaulted her, and a lot of it is chaotic, but the last part is clear and telling, apparently. The owners of the rental house apparently have gotten involved, and they have footage too, but I can't say more. When Marcus left me, he went to both of the other guys' wives and told them what happened. Jeb's wife has been very helpful apparently, and she's split from him. The other guy's wife too has left him. Daniel told me that before Danny found her style, she had long hair and dressed feminine and was stunningly beautiful, and all 3 of them were in love with her as teens. Alex took her rejection very personally, apparently. And Daniel says that Alex was angry and bitter for a couple of years, but he hid it from her. They thought that he had gotten over it, but Daniel thinks that this smacks of revenge against her. That's scary if this is true. I've received hundreds of texts from Alex. He told me that his father told him to stop texting me, but he can't. I haven't replied or blocked him based on advice I've been given. Then, 3 days later, OP posted an update. I got a call from Danny. Daniel has been ever present, and I'm guessing it was because he knew that she was going to call. There's a lot more to the story. The first night was normal, as I said, but on Saturday, Alex, Jeb, and the 3rd friend decided not to go scuba diving with Danny, Daniel, and Marcus. Danny was feeling hungover and gave up after an hour and went back to the Airbnb. She walked into the living room to find all 3 guys engaging in sexual acts with those 2 women. Jeb shouted at her to get out, as this was costing them a fortune. The women were escorts. She left and went back to the boat and only told Marcus what she saw. When they all went back later, Alex told her not to tell me because it was just his last bit of freedom. She told him that she was disgusted with him and that he isn't free. She told him that she would have to think about what to do. Marcus convinced her to stay another night because at that point, he and Daniel had met the 2 girls from the club. And if Danny wanted to leave, then he wouldn't be able to hook up with them because Daniel would have to take Danny because he was her ride and there wasn't public transportation in this tiny town. So, Alex cheated, as did the other 2 guys. Marcus told their wives that morning, but not me. He was going to tell me in stages as he knew that I was in shock. The actual assault went farther than Marcus told me as well. And while Alex hadn't actually done anything beyond pulling off her clothes, unlike the other 2, he stood by and watched and did nothing to help her. She said she thought that Alex had taken shrooms earlier, but couldn't be sure. Marcus and Daniel did rescue her, but things had already escalated. Danny went to the cops immediately and she got to her parents. The Airbnb owners had also gone to the cops independently when they saw the footage. All 3 men are facing the consequences of their actions. Danny told me she was sorry that she didn't leave to tell me immediately like she wanted to. She's very distraught still, and I didn't want to make things worse for her. I don't think that I'm needed for any legal proceedings, so I finally blocked Alex and his parents. The wedding is canceled, and I'm just starting to disentangle myself from Alex on bank accounts and such. Here's my issue. I'm feeling very angry towards Marcus. It feels like he didn't really care about me. He stopped Danny from telling me about the cheating just so he could shack up with this girl that he met at the club. He apparently feels guilty because if they had left, Danny wouldn't have been attacked. He didn't do me the courtesy of telling me that Alex cheated that morning like he did with the other 2 wives. It's not like he was sparing my feelings because my ex assaulted another woman was a pretty damn bad thing to hear. He didn't tell me the full extent of the attack. Danny is still unsure whether or not Alex was just waiting for his turn, or if all he was going to do was watch. I should have been told that ASAP, and not from Danny because that conversation was incredibly difficult for her. Daniel didn't know about the escorts at all, and didn't know Marcus hadn't shared the full story of what they saw when they burst in. Daniel has been my rock. I need some perspective here. Is it okay to be angry at Marcus? Then, 10 days later, OP posted an update. First of all, Danny and I have bonded. She and I talk every day and message constantly. I didn't expect that, but it's truly wonderful. She said that she needs a good straight friend right now, and honestly, she's a great person and has been a huge support to me despite what she's been going through. I told her I posted on Reddit because I felt guilty that to tell my story I had to tell hers, but she's okay with it. She's thinking of waiving her right to anonymity when the trial comes because she wants everyone to know that she was R-worded and by whom. Danny has quit her job and has moved to her parents full-time and is in therapy. She's just about okay. Surviving still rather than living, but she's so strong and amazing. Justice moves slowly here, so there isn't too much of an update on the legal process. Marcus was told, however, that he would not face charges for assault for attacking the two guys who were actively attacking Danny. Daniel gave me space, like I asked, and he's a truly good guy. There's nothing romantic there at all, though. I'm not in a state to be dating, and I won't be for a very long time. He's just a good guy. I got a letter in the mail from Alex. He said that he held out hope while I hadn't blocked him, but once I did, he was distraught. He told me that he doesn't want me to freak out by turning up in person, and I know that wouldn't look good for him anyway, but he just wanted to tell his side of the story. He said that he was pressured into doing stuff with the escorts, and he only got a BJ. The other two were really pressuring him to do more, but he didn't, and he says that he regrets even doing what he did. He admits that he was angry at Danny because she said that either he would tell me about the cheating or she would, but he knew that he was totally in the wrong. He knew that I would dump him for the cheating, so he took everything he could get his hands on. He's not even sure what he took, and while he does remember pulling off Danny's shoes, he doesn't remember much else. How convenient for him. I bet Danny remembers. So he was just peer pressured and drunk and drugged up, and he did nothing wrong at all, basically. I was just disgusted to read this. His total lack of accountability is just sickening. I'm not responding to him ever. Any future mail from him goes unopened to the trash. I'm in therapy, but it's early days and I'm not seeing progress yet. Then after this, OP writes a pretty long paragraph where she just describes grappling with her feelings with Marcus, and she's not really sure how to handle her relationship with him. She finishes by saying, "I'm visiting Danny on the weekend that should have been my wedding. We're going to have a Lord of the Rings marathon, and her mother is making cheesecake. My own family has been wonderful in every way, but Danny is truly why I'm still standing." Whew, that was a brutal read. It's one of those stories that got darker and darker with each new sentence, but at least I guess you could say the only good thing in this story is that finally people are facing justice for their actions. Danny is also amazingly strong. It's just really interesting how this story has really awful people, but then also really, really good, pure-hearted people, and it makes you wonder, how did these evil people become friends with such good-hearted people in the first place? Our next Reddit post is from rSlash Am I the Butthole? Am I the butthole for refusing to have Halloween with my family for years after they screwed me over on this holiday years ago? As the title says, this happened on Halloween. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and 5 years ago, my parents wanted to go to my sister's house for Halloween. At the time, I was still living with them, and I wanted to go to a party that a friend was hosting. But my parents were adamant that I go with them instead because they wanted us to all go together. I still wanted to go to my friend's party, and my parents suggested a compromise in which I go to my sister's party first, then my friend's. I figured it couldn't hurt to do both, so I agreed since I liked helping my nephew with trick-or-treating. And that year, I was wearing an inflatable ninja costume that I was really eager to have fun in. Well, I was ready and waiting in the costume for hours. And by the time we finally took the kids out, most houses stopped giving candy and there was hardly anybody walking around. And we only went around one block. That's it. Then, when I wanted to go to my friend's house, my parents guilted me into staying because they needed me as a designated driver. I would have driven them home first and then gone to my friend's party, but my parents just kept drinking and refused to leave. So I lost out on going to the other party and cussed my parents out for making me miss it and not being able to enjoy my Halloween. They just said that it was too late and what could they do about it? They didn't even attempt to make it up to me. I refused to speak with them later. So they confronted me, and I said that I didn't even want to look at them because they broke their promise. Then I said that unless they could somehow pull a new Halloween party with all my friends out of their butts, then they had completely screwed me over. I left before they could say anything else to me. My friends were nearly as upset as I was. But my sister told me off and said that I was callous because she wanted me there. And ever since that year, I've only spent Halloween with friends. This year, my parents begged me to go with them to my sister's instead. I asked why, and they wanted me to drive them. So I refused and said that all they wanted was a designated driver. And they'd already screwed me over before and didn't even attempt to make it better back then. And I didn't want to just sit around watching them get drunk with the only real highlight being helping kids trick or treat. Instead, I hung out with my friends and we had a blast with a farmyard party. But my sister called me up on Monday furious at me because my parents were pulled over on their way home and got a DUI. And this never would have happened if I had driven them. And now, most of the family is pissed at me. So, am I the butthole for refusing to drive my parents to my sister's house for Halloween because of something they did 5 years ago? The verdict on this one is predictably not the butthole, but then 5 days later, OP posted an update. My sister and her husband spotted my post a few days after I made it and called me. My sister said that she's ashamed of herself, and now she sees my point of view. At first, she was furious that I made the post. But her husband chewed her out for not ever sticking up for me because he really had no idea that my parents treated me this badly. And after they both read the comments, she realized how toxic this whole dynamic was. At first, she blamed it on the stress of being a mother. But quickly, she took that back and said that she really has no excuse for never considering me in these situations. We talked, and she remarked how I've always loved Halloween ever since I was a little kid. And she let my parents ruin it for me that day 5 years ago, even though she knew about the promise they broke. The conversation got pretty emotional, and she apologized heavily because she had put the blame on me when she was the one who let our parents drink and drive year after year. She gave me some more details. My mother is actually the one who got the DUI. I assumed it was our father, but he apparently was so wasted that he was on the verge of passing out and pretty much did as soon as he was in the car. Our mother insisted that she was okay to drive and then ran a red light. That's how the cops spotted her and she was arrested. The car was impounded and our father was escorted home by police to sleep it off. He woke up with a raging hangover and a temper to match. Then he took it all out on my sister over the phone, and she, in turn, took it out on me. Our mother has her license suspended. The car cost them $600 to get out of impound, and both of my parents are putting this on me. Until me and my sister all ganged up on them for what they've been doing. Our father fought us every step of the way. But we made it clear they've been putting their alcoholism above everything else, and we're tired of it, because there have been a lot of broken promises from them all around. Our mother promised to do better, but our father just stayed silent and wouldn't make eye contact with any of us. Things are tense now, but I'm glad my sister is finally on my side of all this. I like how this is supposed to be OP's fault instead of them just getting a cab or getting an Uber. They're really risking their lives because they don't want to spend, I don't know, $30 on an Uber ride. That was r/Best of Redditor updates. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.